Hey, I'm Julie Rose, and this is Love What You Love, a podcast about the wonderful and sometimes weird things people are absolutely passionate about. They're always a unique expression of curiosity and joy and wonder, and the world needs a hell of a lot more of that right now. So every other week, I'll introduce you to another fascinating human who is into really interesting stuff. Before we get into it, a quick note that you can find the podcast on Instagram at Love What You Love Pod, on Twitter at What You Love Pod, and the website is lovewhatyoulovepod.com. Also, this episode was recorded before the lockdown, and what we talk about will still be relevant after, but stick around to the end of the show for ideas on how to get involved at home. So, you just never know about people. Like, you'd never know just by looking at them what their backstory is, what they've done, what they're capable of. Now, this is not a lead into a true crime episode, I promise. Take Cindy Villanueva, for example. She's a teacher and a marketing expert with impeccable taste in clothes and expensive taste in shoes. And she will not kill me for saying that. It's true. She's a mother and a grandmother, funny and warm-hearted. She can also break 3 bricks straight through with her bare hand. Cindy is a 6th-level black belt, a master instructor, and honestly, an all-around badass. So let's find out why Cindy loves the martial arts and why you might learn to love them too. So you and I have known each other a very long time.
We have.
And one of the things I know about you is that you are a very focused and very driven individual. You love a lot of things, but what I know is that you really love martial arts.
I do.
Yeah. And what I want to understand is, where did that come from? Why martial arts? And maybe you can give a little background on who you are and kind of what your day persona is.
Yeah, martial arts is not anything I ever in a million years thought about doing. It's not something I did as a child. I grew up in San Jose, California, born and raised to a very middle-class family. My dad had been a migrant farm worker from Mexico. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and we were really into sports. I swam competitively for about 10 years, did Girl Scout, grew up in a very traditional kind of family. But when my children were 8, 10, and 13, my daughter, and they were all at private school, nice little kids. My daughter got into a sort of a silly girl push fight at school. It wasn't anything big, but my parents flipped out and they said, the kids need to know how to protect themselves. Find a good martial arts school. We'll pay for the first year. So I said, okay. And I started looking around at martial arts schools in San Jose, and I found the Ernie Reyes organization and really, really was impressed with them because they weren't just about kicking and punching. They were really about leadership and about integrity and honor and all of those kinds of things that you want for your children. So I got them started in it, and they were probably maybe purple belts, I guess. So they'd been in it for, several months. And I would come to class and I would sit with all the other moms and I would watch. And there was one instructor who kept coming over to me and saying, you want to get out there. And I was like, no, I'm in my 30s. I haven't worked out in a long time. And I'm just here to watch my kids. And she's like, you want to get out there. And so in our association, we have black belt tests twice a year, and they take place in San Jose. And so I took the kids to go see a black belt test. We thought that would be really cool. And I saw women my age testing for black belt. And I thought, I've been an athlete all my life, and I've kind of really gotten into this watching the kids and really enjoying it. And so I signed up the following Monday, and that was 25 years ago.
Oh my God. And so you are now, what level black belt are you?
I have a 6th degree black belt.
I mean, I presume that is super high and impressive just because but I don't know what that means. So can explain what that means?
Yeah. So just to give it a little context, my great grandmaster, so Ernie Reyes Sr., and he is going to be 73 years old next week, and will be testing for his 10th degree black belt. So that kind of gives you an idea of where I am in the spectrum.
Got it. So you started when you were in your 30s, and you are now a sixth level black belt,
That's right.
and you own your own studio.
Yeah, which is crazy. Never in a million years thought about doing that. Grandmaster Reyes and our co-founder, Tony Thompson, asked us to consider opening a school. It was, there's a karate school on every corner. The market's really, really saturated. And if you're a parent and, you've got a 5-year-old, say, you don't know the difference between one school or the other. You go in, you look, kids are, it's hard to know what's a great school unless you really kind of dig in. And so, my training is in martial arts, but my academic training is in business. And so we worked up the business plan, did all the research. And so we moved here, built a home, built the school, and we opened the first Ernie Reyes school in Texas, the only Ernie Reyes school in Texas, in July of 2007.
From the first class you took in martial arts to opening your own school, how many years was that?
Let's see, I started in 1994 and I opened my school in 2007.
Wow. Becoming a sixth level black belt, I mean, you obviously love doing it.
I do, yeah.
What does it take to achieve something like that? I mean, obviously having the love, but what else is involved in I mean, it's a freaking amazing accomplishment. Like, how do you get there?
Really good question. A lot of it, particularly once you get to my age, and I'll tell you, I'm 58 years old. Once you get to this age, I'm not doing the pop-up spinning wheel kicks or the 540s or any of that crazy stuff that some of the younger kids are doing. So it really does become a discipline of your mind and your body, of course, and I'm not like 300 pounds and sitting and eating bonbons watching the kids do martial arts. I mean, I'm training, but it really does, I look at my great grandmaster and he is, like I said, he'll be 73 next week and he has cancer. And you watch him and the days that you wake up and you're sore or you're tired or you're unmotivated and you think about him and you go, get out of bed, get on the mat, get it done. There's just, it's virtually impossible to be lazy when you have a role model like that. He is so inspiring, so amazing. But even in the absence of that, for me, it's really to be better than I was yesterday. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm kicking higher or punching harder than I did yesterday. It's as a human being, am I a better person today than I was yesterday? Am I affecting, to the degree that I'm able? I don't have a worldwide platform, but I have a school of 100 families. And to the degree that I'm able, am I being a great role model for the 4-year-old little dragon and the 40-year-old adult student who is coming in and saying, I always wanted to take martial arts, or maybe I took martial arts when I was 7, but I never got my black belt and I'd like to try it again. Am I being a great role model? And that has not always been easy. And sometimes being a driven person actually means I'm being a poor role model because I have had times, and I'll be honest, I have a lot of injuries and they're not martial arts related. I have a congenital problem with my joints. I have bad arthritis. So when I was 48, I had a knee replacement. So I have one titanium knee. In November, I had one of my shoulders replaced. So I'm working my way towards the Wolverine kind of thing. But I haven't always been a great patient. And there have been times when I've pushed myself beyond really what was intelligent. And as a consequence, I have had times where I've had students where I've seen them pushing too hard. And I've said, hey, you know what, dial that back a little bit. And they've looked at me and, and called me out and said, really, Kwanjanim? From you? That's the advice from you? And so I've had to learn over these, 25 years that sometimes really restraint is the better part of valor.
So, again, it takes a lot of focus and determination and mental strength. But where in all of this, where do you get joy?
Oh, that's a great question. So for me, I can't say that I get a ton of joy by, getting the next stripe on my belt. There's a sense of accomplishment, and I don't want to diminish that. There's a deep sense of accomplishment. I mean, I look around and I see women my age who are they're old, and I'm not, and then there's a deep sense of contentment and accomplishment there. Where I get joy is when I'll give you a quick story. I have a woman who is she's now a third degree black belt. But years ago, she came to me and her sons were taking martial arts, and she wanted to take my cardio kickboxing classes just to cross train, just for working out. Great. She takes cardio. After a while, she's like, hey, do you need extra teachers? I'd love to teach cardio. So she started teaching a couple of days a week. Then one day she came to me this one evening and she was in tears. And I said, oh my gosh, what's wrong? And she said, I'm so embarrassed. I really want to take martial arts, but I think I'm too old. I'm saying, are you kidding me? She's 40. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. No, you're not too old. Of course not. And she said, I didn't take it as a child. Like, I haven't even told my husband this. But it's something I really want to do. And I said, you know what? If you want to get on this mat and you want to train, I will train you. And I did. And she now has 3 stripes on her belt. She's 50 years old. I don't know if I can say this on your podcast. She's a total badass.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more proud. That's where I get a lot of joy. I get a lot of joy when I see kids who are on the spectrum and who have parents who come to me and say, hey, my child has been kicked out of 13 different activities. We're kind of at the last straw. Like, we're trying to find something that he can do. And he comes here and he succeeds and he has a smile on his face and he's having a good time. That brings me joy, because martial arts truly is not just kicking and punching. Yes, come here. This isn't chess club. This isn't knitting club. You're going to get hit. You're going to punch. You're going to cry. You're going to sweat. You're going to bleed a little bit. I mean, it's going to happen. But it's all about digging deep and finding that place inside of you that you didn't think you could go. I have one black belt who started with me as a little dragon. She is now a sophomore at Texas A&M. She's a 4th degree black belt. She, when she left me, she joined the judo club at A&M. So she's training in judo now. And she told me when she did her 4th degree black belt test, she said, you know what, ma'am, I never had any idea I was as strong as I was. It pushed me beyond what I thought I could do. And I mean, that is what brings me to tears. That's what brings me joy.
And you've had, over the course of 15 years, you've had hundreds and hundreds of students, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've graduated over 60 black belts. So, and many of them with multiple degrees. We have, I said, we have 2 black belt tests a year, but we have a mastery test every 4 years. And that's a big freaking deal. So like I said, Great Grandmaster Reyes will be testing for his 10th degree in June. All the school owners and all the head instructors, the senior people, all test every 4 years.
Can you talk about this mastery test? Because I've known you a long time and I've known you prepping for that. And frankly, it sounds like hell. So what is it and why do you do it?
Yeah, it is hell. And when you're in the middle of it, you're like, why am I doing this? And then the second it's over, you're like, man, that was the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. I'll give you just a little glimpse of like the last one that I did in 2016. when I tested for my 6th degree black belt. So the regular black belt test is like a day, day and a half long. For the mastery test, our test was 6 days. So we started on Monday night. You show up. What happens is you get a list of stuff that you're supposed to bring. And so you have to have this whole thing packed really compactly because there are, at that point, I think we had about 175 mastery testers. And so you've got your duffel bag, you have your sleeping bag, you wear camos and a t-shirt. And every single day, you have no idea what you're going to do. Now, you have a certain amount of curriculum that you are going to get tested on. So all of your forms and your jujitsu and your sticks and all that kind of stuff, you're going to get tested on. But really what the mastery test is about is testing your strength of character and your mind and your fortitude. And so on Tuesday of that week, we started out, and I should say, you don't eat very much. So you're allowed to bring cans of tuna or chicken. You can bring like garbanzo beans, black beans, green beans, canned, that sort of thing. You get plain rice cakes, water. Sometimes we get fruit. And so that Tuesday morning, we got a bottle of water and a rice cake. And we did a bunch of curriculum. And then you're on your team. So you find out what team you're on. And it's a really cool team building situation. So I was on the Foxtrot team. And so there's 12 people on your team. So you get in your van and the vans are blacked out. They black out the windows, except obviously for the driver. So you have no idea where you are or what you're doing. And so they get their driving instructions. We get in all these vans and we start driving. Well, we end up at the Presidio. And so we get out, and that day we were wearing, I was wearing some leggings and a t-shirt and tennis shoes. So we get to the Presidio and you get out and they put 3 teams together. So now you're 36 people. And they said, okay, sign this waiver. You're like, I have no idea what I'm signing, but okay. And the thing is for me, being the age that I was, I knew I was going to be the oldest person on my team. And I think the youngest person on my team was late 20s. And so here I'm, 54. And I was determined. So my mental thinking was no matter what we do, I'm doing it. Because in the mastery workouts, you always are given the opportunity, like you can back out, if something's too scary or you think it's going to be too hard or you have an injury or whatever, there's other things that you can do. I was determined that no matter what we did, I was doing it. And that I was not going to have a situation where my team was thinking, oh, great, we got stuck with the grandma. That was kind of my mindset. And that whatever we did, I was going to take extra turns. I was just going to be in it. So we walk down to the beach. So we're maybe, 50 yards from the water. Now, this is July in San Francisco. So, of course, it's nice and warm outside, but you know what that water's like. So we get to the sand, and there are these huge logs. And each one of these logs weighs between 350 and 420 pounds. And so they show us how 8 to 10 of us are going to pick up this log and put it on your shoulder and how you walk with it. Now, at this point, I hadn't had my shoulders fixed. I have bone spurs in both of my shoulders that stick up. So this is awesome. So you're picking up this log, putting it down. So, okay, now they tell you, all right, now whatever your leader says, this is what you're going to do for the rest of the day. So he says, all right, you have 3 minutes. Run down to the ocean, dive in, get back up here, pick up your log, move, go. So you just bolt, you just run. And some people are like tiptoeing, oh, heck no, you got to dive in. So you're fully clothed, backpack on, everything, dive in, get out, run back up the sand and pick up this log. So we literally walked that log through the city of San Francisco for hours. And so you have this whole big team. Oh, and I should mention there are 2 logs per team. So most of your team is carrying logs. The people who aren't are jogging behind you, and then you just rotate out. And over the hours, you kind of develop a system of, how you tap in, how you tap out. Well, at one point, we get to a street where, and people are driving by and walking by and looking at you like you're absolutely insane. And so we get to this point, the light turns green, the first log goes across, the light turns red. So our log is on one side of the street, the other log's on the other side of the street. And the Green Beret is screaming at us. You don't leave your team. They just got ambushed. Now you have casualties. And so we get across the street and they pull out a stretcher. And these stretchers are heavy, the metal poles, and then they have like this canvas thing. And so they take a person who's not a small person, one of the bigger guys, stick him on the stretcher. So now you have 6 people who have to carry the stretcher. Then you have at least 8 people, sometimes 10, on either one of the logs. So now there's only a few people who are rotating in and out. So you're taking more turns. So we're going through this whole thing. We get to this one point, and I don't remember what street it was on, but we stopped at this point, got to drop the logs, and we had to do burpees, and then we had to do these kicking things on, we're on the ground doing the leg kicks and everything. And there's this flight of stairs. It's really probably 2 flights of stairs going up to the next street. I don't remember where we were. So we set the logs down, and we have to crab walk up the 2 flights of stairs and then bunny hop down the flights of stairs. So we get down. He's like, all right, pick up your logs. We get the logs. He goes, carry the logs up the stairs. Like, wait, what? We ended up carrying that damn log 10 miles. We finally get to this big lot, and everybody's able to put the logs down. Okay, you're done with the logs. Say goodbye to the logs. Oh, I did forget something. We had to load up our backpacks with rocks or sand so that we were carrying heavy weights. Yeah, minor detail. So at any rate, we get to the point where we drop the logs, and then we're like, okay, we're running back to the Presidio, double time, let's go. So bam, bam. So we're jogging to the Presidio. We get back to the Presidio, everybody's high-fiving, oh, we did it, blah, blah, blah. It's getting later in the evening. It's getting cold. You're still wet, no jackets, but, whatever. Everybody's high-fiving. And then suddenly we look around like, wait a minute, where's the vans? There's no vans here. And they look at us, they go, did you think you were done? Oh, we're not done. We're running across the Golden Gate Bridge. Oh, awesome. You should know that the Golden Gate Bridge is almost 3 miles across. So now we're jogging across the Golden Gate Bridge. But you got to imagine people are dropping like flies. And it's amazing how the 18-year-olds now are dropping like flies. And so consequently, and here's the thing, nobody gets left behind. You stay together as a team. And so you're jogging, but you're basket carrying some people who just can't do it. And then you're swapping out because you obviously can't run 3 miles basket carrying somebody. And so I ended up being chosen to bring up the rear and make sure that we all stayed together and nobody got left behind. So you're kind of, hollering at people kindly, everybody's dying. We've been doing this all day long, and keep in mind, we had a rice cake and a bottle of water that morning. That was it. So finally we get across, it's nighttime, it's 9:00, it's in San Francisco. You're still wet. You're sweaty, but your clothes are wet from jumping in the ocean. I have never been that cold in my entire life. We finally get lined up and they give us this patch that, we made it. And it's like, nothing is more important to me in my entire life. My firstborn is as important to me as that patch is, because you just accomplished the most difficult thing you've ever done in your life.
And that was day 1.
Day 2 of the test. We still had the rest of the week to go. So.
Oh my God. So that's, obviously you love this because otherwise, or you're insane, or both. One of these.
Maybe a little of both.
Right. So what questions does this answer for you?
Oh, such a good question. It really answers the question for me, what am I capable of? So my first degree black belt test, I was, you're going to see a theme here. I was going through a divorce. And so for me, training was just a way to take my mind off what was going on and to just, release some endorphins, release some frustration. So going through the first degree test, everybody says, hey, look, when you go through it, at some point you're going to cry. And I was like, you can't make me cry. I'm not crying. There's no way in hell I'm crying at this test. So go through the whole test. And actually before the test, about 2 weeks before the test, my soon-to-be ex-husband calls me up and he's screaming at me over the phone. He's like, I can't believe you're going to go through with this. And if you get hurt, don't expect me to pay for you. And you're going to have to, take care of yourself. It was ugly. It was really ugly. I ended up hanging up on him and it was just awful. So I go through the test, best experience of my entire life. I'm on fire. I ended up getting a best tester award in my division. I mean, everything is clicking. I break all my boards. Everything goes great. Well, at the end of the test, before you go outside to do 2 hours of conditioning, if you're 18 or over, you have the option to break a brick. And you break one for every degree that you're going to be. So I only needed to break one, but I'd never broken a brick in my life. Now, this isn't like a red brick, right? Those are the thinner, gray bricks. And so they're bringing groups up on stage, in a group at a time. And so Grandmaster Reyes starts talking and he says, okay, if you're going to break, you need to get in line. You're going to come up here and break. And he goes, look, it's not required, but it's optional if you want to do this. Just nobody's going to write this on their resume. This isn't something that that is a professional kind of deal. This has to be a personal thing, and use it as a metaphor. Maybe there's something in your life that you need to break through. Use it as a metaphor. Maybe there's a relationship that you need to break through. And I was like, oh, give me the damn brick. And so because when he first announced that we were breaking bricks, the first thing that popped in my head was my husband's voice. What if you get hurt? And I'd seen people break their hands on bricks. But then when he said that, I was like, no, give me the brick. So I got up, I went in line. I'm thinking, I don't even know what to do. So I'm watching everybody, who's ahead of me, who's breaking successfully. Like, okay, I'm going to use a palm strike. And so I get up there, and I'm nervous, but I've had this amazing day, right? The entire day has been just fantastic. Everything has gone right. And so I'm standing there, I'm getting ready to break. And he says, go. And I key up and I didn't even feel the brick. My hand actually hit the floor, which is not the right way to break. It's too much. But I went right through the brick. And I will say that was the only time all day I cried because it was at that moment that I realized there's nothing I can't do. There is absolutely nothing that I can't do. And I'm a woman of faith. So for me, it was definitely a God moment where between him and me, there's nothing that I can't do. That's the thing I tell my students. I can teach you technique. I can kick you in the butt. What I can't give you is that sense of accomplishment that you have from knowing that you have pushed yourself beyond what you thought you could do. I can't give that to you. I can take you up to that point. You have to take it. You have to grab that. You have to want it so badly that you will grab it. And then once you experience it once, you will never, ever lose that. No one can take that from you. You can steal all 6 of my black belts. Nobody can take away from me that feeling that I had breaking that first brick, breaking 6 bricks after my 6th degree test, carrying that damn log all day long. Nobody can take that away from me. Those are things that have become part and parcel of who I am. And they translate not just when I'm standing on the mat, they translate when I'm standing in front of a room, giving a presentation, or when I'm leading a team, or when I'm doing anything that is hard. I know, what? I've done X. And it felt so good to be on the other side of it. So because I did that thing, I know I can do this thing. And that is a gift that martial arts has given me that I can give my students up to a certain point. But I tell their parents too, don't make this easy for them. If you do, you will rob them of that feeling that is just, you can hear me getting excited about it. Once you have had that experience, there's nothing like you'll want more of it.
What frustrates you about it? Now, I know at the top of your list is going to be injuries.
Yeah.
But besides injuries, what frustrates you about martial arts, about pursuing that?
Yeah, it's still definitely very male dominated. When I was married, and we owned the school together, you go to tournaments and people automatically would look at him. We were the exact same belt rank, both of us 50-50 partners in this business, where it's just assumed that, or if you tell somebody that, you own a martial arts school, then they'll ask you, so do you do martial arts too? So that's a little bit frustrating. It's still definitely a very male dominated. But one of the things that I'm really super proud of is in our association, like I said, there's over 40 schools. Only 3 of our schools are women only owned. There's a couple that are husband and wife, but I'm one of only 3 women only owned businesses. The other thing that's frustrating me, and you kind of alluded to it, is the injury thing. Because I just had shoulder replacement on one of my shoulders and I have to have shoulder replacement on the other one, I am done advancing. I am not able to go to the mastery test in June, and I am definitely going through grieving. I'm not going to lie. It's rough. It's rough. But I am pouring myself into my students who are going to mastery, reframing all of the energy and passion that I would pour into my own training and pouring it into them to make sure that they can be the very best that they can be.
Would you say that because of your kind of genetic issues with your joints and your arthritis, that you were more prone to get injured? I'm just curious about like what the injury rate is for martial arts.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because if there are any parents who are listening to this who are wondering about putting their kids in, because it's funny, I do have parents asking me, they see me walking around after the surgery in a sling going, is that a martial arts injury? No, it's not. If I had been like a competitive knitter, all of this would have happened. It's just degenerative and it's unfortunate. Maybe it was accelerated a little bit from martial arts, mostly because I haven't been a great patient. But no, it's definitely, it doesn't have anything to do with it. And I will say probably martial arts has saved me in some respects because I do train so hard, because I do work out, musculature is fine. It's just the joint.
Oh, man, that's frustrating. That's frustrating.
But, it's also character building, I think. And if we're trying to look at that silver lining, like, I am now going to learn new lessons.
Are there people that would not be a good fit for martial arts, or would you say that anybody could try it?
You know what? I at the risk of sounding like a marketing plug, anybody can try it. I think anybody can get something out of it. If you are someone who has traditionally done team sports and you're not sure about the individual aspects of it, you're taking class with other people who are at your belt level, and you form this friendships that are, lifelong friendships. So from a kid perspective, I think anybody can do it. It's great for teaching them, I don't want to sound like regimented, but teaching them self-discipline and respect and focus. Those kinds of things are great. But for an adult, it's a wonderful way to, you get stressed out, you go, you kick, you punch, and it's okay. You can you're punching somebody and it's okay. And yeah, I would say anybody really would get something from it. Now, some people are going to do better at it than others, but I think everybody can get something out of it.
If you had one wish about martial arts or your involvement in it, what would it be?
The thing that jumps to my mind is that, oh, I wish I had started it earlier, but I don't know that I necessarily do. I think that I started it just at the right time, and being an adult and, doing it with my children. And I think, gosh, that's a tough question. That's a tough question. I guess, you know what? I will say this. I think with martial arts, what I wish I had done is taken better care of myself sooner.
Before you started martial arts or during the process?
Before. Yeah, that maybe I had, started getting my knees fixed, or, doing some things that would have given me a little bit more longevity. Although I can't complain about 25 years.
Right. Right. 25 years doing something it shows commitment and love. So that's impressive.
Indeed.
If a listener is new to martial arts and they want to get involved, what's the best way to start?
Oh, do your research. It's so easy to go to the one that's closest to you, but you want to make sure, because every discipline is different and every school is different. So do a little bit of research around the discipline. So for example, when I first started out, I did Taekwondo. The Ernie Reyes organization was a Taekwondo school. So my first degree black belt is in Taekwondo. Taekwondo is mostly kicking. So if you have bad hips or you have bad knees, Taekwondo is probably not going to be your best choice. If you have bad shoulders or a bad back, or, you have some of those kinds of issues, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu may not be your best choice. If you don't really want a hard style, go into something that's a softer style. Go into Tai Chi, do Wing Chun, do something different. Think about the different styles. So that may seem like a lot to do, but a brief Google search on the different types of martial arts, it will give you a kind of a brief overview of what you might want to do. But more importantly than that, go and watch classes and go and watch the white belt classes. Don't necessarily go and watch the black belt classes because, they know what they're doing. The instructors are going to be different than the ones who are teaching the white belts. And what you want to see is somebody who is genuinely caring, someone who is super positive. In our classes, we want to make sure that this is like the happiest place they go. And when they come in, they want to be here. When they leave, they have a smile on their face, that they feel good about themselves. You want teachers who are super complimentary. You want teachers who look like they want to be there. Make sure that the studio is clean. Go in the restroom. When you walk in the door, does it smell like a gym, or does it look like a nice place you'd want to go and train or bring your family? So some of those basic kinds of things, but I think it's really super important to go and watch classes before you go.
Makes total sense. It sounds like what you're saying is, martial arts is it takes a lot of discipline, but the instructors don't need to be a hard ass and mean about it. It has to be, we're being disciplined, but we are enjoying this too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the olden days, you would get screamed at and, it would be ugly. You start off white belt in our system, you start off white, orange, gold, green, purple. By the time you hit blue or even brown, you'll hear people change from saying, "Oh, I take martial arts," as if I'm taking a class, to saying, "I'm a martial artist." When you get to that point, you're a lifer, right? You kind of have flipped a switch and you've reframed how you view yourself and what it means in this discipline. And that's for me is really exciting when you see that. And you can see that in a kid 10 years old.
Amazing. Is there a licensing entity for martial arts studios, or it's just kind of anybody wants to set one up, they can set one up?
So it's a little of both. So there is like the World Taekwondo Federation that you have to be licensed if you're a true Taekwondo studio. There is for our association. We go through, we have a mandatory boot camp that we go to every January, and we have to get recertified in all the curriculum. And so all of the school owners are certified in the curriculum. We teach exactly the same thing. If you come to Ernie Reyes West Coast School in Texas or in Ohio or in Tennessee or in Oregon or in California, you're going to learn the exact same thing the exact same way.
Got it. So when you're looking for a place to go, make sure that they are certified, and also check out the lessons and see what you think.
Definitely, because there are definitely those, kind of karate in a box schools that, somebody really liked martial arts and said, "Hey, I can do this on my own," and set up a school. You want to know kind of what's the lineage, who's your master instructor, who's his or her master instructor, how long have you been doing this? How long's your school been in place? How many black belts have you graduated? Do you have other parents I can talk to? And again, watching those white belt classes to see how they treat those early students is super important.
Big thanks to Cindy for taking the time to chat with me. I'll post a link to her studio in the show notes, as well as resources for taking martial arts classes online from home if you're still in lockdown. As a reminder, you can find the podcast on Instagram at Love What You Love Pod and on Twitter at What You Love Pod. Come tell me how you learned what you're really capable of. Don't forget to use the hashtag #LoveWhatYouLove so we can continue the conversation. And I want to know what you're into. Drop me an email at lovewhatyoulovepod@gmail.com and maybe we can chat for a future episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, consider subscribing and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It really does make a difference. So go out there and just love the hell out of whatever you love, and then share it with other people, because we need a lot more joy and love in this world, especially right now. Thanks for listening. Let's hang out again soon.